It seems like Kanye West is everywhere these days, you know?
Yeah, it's tough to miss him.
Every time you turn around, there's another headline, another interview, and a whole lot of people talking about it.
Definitely seems to be stirring things up as usual.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, in this deep dive, we're going to zero in on one particular reaction to Kanye's recent, let's say, controversial comments.
Right.
And that reaction comes from media personality Akademiks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we could spend hours unpacking every single provocative thing Kanye has said recently, but we're going to take a slightly different approach.
Sounds good.
We're not going to rehash every detail of what Kanye said, but we are going to dig into how Akademiks has kind of stepped into this whole situation and defended some of Kanye's statements.
I think that's smart because you've probably seen little bits and pieces of this story floating around online, you know, headlines, short clips, all that.
Yeah, exactly. It can be really hard to get a clear picture of what actually happened and what was said. So our goal is to break down that initial interview between Kanye and Akademiks, and really importantly, try to understand what Akademiks said afterwards when he defended some of Kanye's comments.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because the initial interview itself had so many layers to unpack.
Oh, for sure. So let's start with that initial interview between Kanye and Akademiks.
Right.
It all went down last weekend, and the setting itself, an LA hotel room, almost became like a character in this whole saga.
Right.
But what really grabbed everyone's attention were the visuals right
Sure.
from the get-go. Kanye was wearing a Ku Klux Klan outfit.
Yeah.
I mean, that image alone carries a lot of weight, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, that visual context, you just can't separate that from the words that followed.
Exactly.
And in that same interview, Kanye went on to launch verbal attacks at some really big names in the music industry.
Oh, yeah?
We're talking Jay-Z, Kendrick Lamar, Frank Ocean. They were all mentioned.
It's interesting, too, because these weren't just like passing mentions.
Yeah.
He really went in, especially when he was talking about Jay-Z and Beyonce.
You could feel this deep frustration coming from him.
Yeah.
He talked about feeling a lack of support from them during some really difficult personal times in his life,
Right.
you know, especially when it came to issues with his children.
Mm-hmm.
He even brought up their involvement with his music catalog, how they have a stake in it financially.
Right.
And it seemed like he was really grappling with that, with the power dynamics at play.
Yeah, and it's important to note, it wasn't just like, oh, Jay-Z didn't call me back when I was going through something. It was tied to this bigger issue in Kanye's mind, these bigger industry issues.
Right, like the sense of betrayal almost.
Exactly. It's like those personal grievances get all tangled up with how he sees the music industry, with how business works.
Yeah.
And he was saying, you know, these people who I thought were in my inner circle, they weren't there for me when I needed them.
Right.
And it was like he was connecting that to these bigger problems of, you know, influence and control in the industry. Yeah, there was a sense that loyalty, personal support, all of that was taking a backseat to things like, you know, Jay-Z's political activism.
Yeah,
At
exactly.
least that's how Kanye was framing it.
Right.
But then the conversation took a turn and went to Kendrick Lamar.
Oh.
And this part, I don't know, it felt like there were multiple layers of tension, you know?
Yeah.
Like there was some real history there.
Yeah.
It felt like Kanye was kind of issuing a warning to Kendrick, a really direct one, and he brought up this old tweet Kendrick made that involved Jay-Z's children.
Oh, wow.
It felt like he was drawing a line in the sand, maybe even a veiled threat
Oh, that's interesting.
based on their past interactions.
You know, bringing up that old social media post, it just kind of shows you that there's some history there, right?
Right.
Maybe there's some unresolved conflict where at least Kanye feels like there's been some disrespect and he hasn't let it go.
Totally.
It makes you think about how these relationships in the music industry, they can be so intense and they can be fragile, you know?
Huh.
Like what happened in the past can still have an impact on what's happening now.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And then on top of all that, Kanye made this really bold accusation about Kendrick's music. He claimed that Kendrick Lamar's album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, basically copied parts of Kanye's own album, The Life of Pablo.
Wow.
Like straight up artistic borrowing,
Yeah.
maybe even theft in Kanye's eyes.
It's a huge accusation to make.
Yeah, and I think it just goes to show how much scrutiny there is in creative fields and how competitive it is.
Yeah.
You know, artists are super aware of each other's work and they're always looking for influences and similarities.
Right.
And so when someone like Kanye comes out and makes a claim like that, whether it's true or not, it can really damage their reputation and their relationships.
Totally.
It creates this whole public perception.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the interview didn't stop there.
Oh, no.
It went even further into some pretty disturbing territory. There were more anti-Semitic comments. Kanye also said he regretted having children with Kim Kardashian.
Oh, wow.
And he even mentioned feeling a connection to Diddy right in the middle of all these serious allegations that Diddy is facing.
Oh, man.
It was all over the place. And to be honest, it was just really concerning on a lot of different levels.
It was a lot to take in.
Oh, yeah.
And I think because of how serious some of those comments were, especially the anti-Semitic ones, and bringing up Diddy like that, we really need to look closely at how Akademiks chose to talk about his conversation with Kanye afterwards.
Right, like how we framed it all.
Exactly.
So this brings us to what Akademiks said to TMZ.
Okay.
After that first interview came out, Akademiks talked to TMZ, and one of the first things he addressed was the KKK outfit.
Yeah, the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Literally.
He talked about how Kanye had texted him beforehand about wearing a black outfit, and Akademiks said he initially thought Kanye just meant the color of his clothes.
Oh.
But then obviously he realized it was a KKK outfit.
That-
And you could tell that realization really hit him.
What was his immediate reaction to that?
Well, he said that as soon as he saw it, he tried to get Kanye to talk about it.
Okay.
He asked him point blank, like, why this representation?
Mm-hmm.
He even brought up the swastika chain that Kanye's been wearing.
Right.
So it was clear that Akademiks wasn't ignoring or downplaying how controversial all of this was.
It seems like she got it.
Yeah, he understood the symbolism, he understood the message it was sending.
Yeah.
But here's where things get really complicated.
Okay.
Even though he acknowledged how provocative and problematic all of this was, Akademiks went on to say that both on camera and off camera, Kanye was making some coherent points.
So that's the big question, isn't it?
Totally.
What exactly did Akademiks think was coherent?
Right. He didn't tell us which of Kanye's remarks he was referring to. Was it the stuff about the music industry? Was it about his personal issues with other artists? Or was it something else entirely?
Who knows?
We don't know, and that's what makes it so hard to understand.
Like, what framework is he using to come to that conclusion?
I mean, we can't ignore the fact that a lot of what Kanye said was incredibly serious and sensitive.
Absolutely.
Like, take anti-Semitism, you can't just brush that off as a coherent point.
Right. It's not a debate.
It's not for discussion.
Exactly. And I think it's really important for us to be clear here.
Yeah?
Our goal is not to validate anything Kanye said.
No.
We're trying to figure out what Akademiks was thinking, what his perspective is.
And I think it's important to think about why his perspective matters.
Totally.
Because he's a public figure, he has this big platform, especially in hip-hop culture. His words carry weight, you know? They can influence how people see things.
Absolutely. So then the question becomes, why would he make a statement like that?
Right.
Why would someone like Akademiks, who's got to be aware of all the backlash against Kanye, why would he publicly say that he thinks Kanye's making coherent points?
Yeah, that's a good question. Is he just trying to be contrarian? Does he actually believe that there are some valid points buried in all that other stuff? Or is there something else going on, like a strategic move to get attention?
It could be any of the... I mean, it's certainly possible that Akademiks really believes that even when someone's using harmful rhetoric, there might be some valid criticisms in there somewhere.
Right.
It might resonate with certain people.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's someone who spends a lot of time online. He's used to controversy. So maybe his idea of what's acceptable to say is a little different.
That's true.
And we can't rule out the possibility that he's doing this to get more attention.
Of course.
Controversy sells.
It does.
But I think this brings up a much bigger question about media figures, especially when they're dealing with people who are spreading harmful ideas.
Totally.
Like when you highlight any part of their message as being coherent, even if it seems separate from the really bad stuff, does that make people take the rest of what they're saying more seriously?
Yeah, it's a tough line to walk.
Yeah, and it makes you think about this whole idea of separating the idea from the person who's expressing it. Especially to that person who's saying a lot of harmful things.
Right.
Like, can you really take one good idea and separate it from all the bad stuff?
Yeah, it's complicated.
It really is. And there are no easy answers, but it's a conversation we need to have.
Absolutely. So let's sum up where we're at.
Okay.
We've got Kanye West, who gave this deeply troubling interview to Akademiks,
Right.
filled with controversial statements and offensive imagery. And then we have Akademiks, who went on to say publicly that he thought Kanye was making some coherent points.
Without telling us what those points were.
Exactly. And that leaves us with this really big question.
Okay, I'm listening.
In a situation like this, a situation that's so charged, what does it even mean for someone to say they're hearing coherent points?
Yeah.
And how do we, as people who are trying to make sense of all this information, how do we deal with ideas that might actually be valid, but are coming from someone who's also saying really harmful things?
It's a real challenge.
It is. It makes you think critically about the message, but also about the messenger.
And about the platforms that give them a voice.
It's complex. There are so many layers.
It really is.
And we're all trying to figure it out together.
One interview at a time.
One deep dive at a time.
That's right.
It makes you think.
It does.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
See you next time.
Bye.